Welcome back to The Kicker. Today we are diving into State Senate District 48. We're sitting down with two candidates, Nathan Hombroek and Laura Murvartian, and we're giving a quick update about the ongoing paper ballot debate. My name is Becky Woomer.
And I'm Jessica Fleming.
Hey, Jessica, good to see you.
Yes, nice to see you.
This is exciting times.
Yeah.
One exciting thing coming up, we want to invite everyone to the CD7 Democratic debate this Friday, April 24th at 6 p.m. at the new county admin building. So if you've been curious about that building, this is a good thing to come to. You live in Congressional District 7 if Rich McCormick is currently your congressman. There are 4 Democrats running in the primary for that race to face Rich in November. And we're going to have all 4 qualified candidates for the Democratic nomination there to debate.
That's so exciting.
This is a big deal. So Friday the 24th at 6 p.m., we'll put the sign up for that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Today is going to be all about Georgia Senate District 48. So here's a quick refresher. Keep in mind, this is for our state Senate race. So Georgia's 2 U.S. senators are Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. This is not about them, although Senator Ossoff is running for re-election this year. But we have state senators who represent us in Forsyth. So Forsyth County has 6 different state House districts, but it's covered by only 2 state Senate districts. They're bigger. So in Forsyth, we have state Senate districts 27 and 48. 27 is most of the county, and Greg Dolezal is that incumbent. But Senate District 48 covers the southern part of the county, and the incumbent is Shawn Still.
Yeah. And we actually have 2 Democrats running in the primary to face Shawn Still. So that is so exciting.
A Democratic primary in Forsyth? Who would have thought?
Yeah. And if you don't know what a Democratic primary is, basically early voting is starting very soon, April 27th, and it's for the May 19th primary. When you go to your voting place, you will get either a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot. And there are many times for different seats in Forsyth County where the Democratic ballot was very light and there weren't a lot of names. And we were happy to have one name for certain seats. And now there are multiple races on the ballot where there is more than one name and we actually have a choice. So very exciting.
Amazing. Amazing. So there's a few key things to know about this district, Senate District 48. First of all, where is it?
Exactly. So the best way to know what districts you're in, including SD48, is to go Google Georgia My Voter page. And that will come up and you can put your information in and then you will find everything, including your state Senate seat, school board, county commission, everything, House. But if just off the top of our heads, if you want to know the general area of Forsyth, we can do that by the schools that are in SD48. So think if you live near around Lambert, Brookwood, Daves Creek, Shiloh Point, South Forsyth Middle School, Sharon, Riverwatch, or Settlesbridge, you most likely are in SD48. And we can also think about where you go to vote. So if you vote at Windermere, Old Atlanta Rec Center, Old Atlanta Club, Johns Creek Baptist, or the South Forsyth Precinct that votes at Sharon Springs Park, you are also most likely in SD48.
Gotcha. And you and I, Jessica, are in SD48.
So exactly. Yes.
This is very relevant to us today. The second thing to know about Senate District 48 is that it has been pretty drastically gerrymandered over the last few years by the Republican legislature. So as you know, gerrymandering means like the intentional manipulation of district lines to often achieve a partisan result. So in Georgia, our legislature directly controls redistricting. There's no independent commission that does it like there is in some places. This district was always a pretty compact suburban district covering areas of North Fulton. And Michelle Au was a previous Democrat in this seat. She won her seat in 2020, 56-44. And so it had become over the years a blue district, and she held that seat. Then after the 2020 census, it was redrawn to favor Republicans. So whereas she had won her seat pretty handedly, after they redrew the district, Shawn Still, a Republican, beat Josh Uden 57 to 43. So that was a 13-point swing towards Republicans in just 2 years.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's the effect of gerrymandering. So what was done was to take what had been a pretty compact suburban district and add in some precincts in Forsyth and even some precincts in Gwinnett to kind of change who actually gets to vote in that district.
Yeah. Okay. It's so interesting because that was gerrymandered. The other important thing to know is that this now is become a really competitive seat. So even with that gerrymandering, there are more Democrats that are here, and the seat is very competitive. So in 2024, this was a competitive seat as well. There was a lot of big money, and it was very contentious. So during that time, Shawn Still, the person challenging him was Ashwin Ramaswamy, and he grew up in the district. He had raised double the amount of money from Shawn Still, and he mostly had like smaller donors and was doing really well. But unfortunately, Shawn Still won the race. But now it's really considered very competitive. The race, also, another important thing to know is that it did get pretty dirty on Shawn Still's part. He sent out these flyers and mailers accusing Ashwin of some pretty horrible things. Ashwin was a very young candidate. He was just approximately the age that was old enough to actually run for office in Georgia. And he was engaging with a lot of high school students. There was so much energy around his campaign. And Shawn Still sent out mailers that he was doing things that were inappropriate, which was completely false, and really was impacting Ashwin's reputation. So there's currently a civil suit against Shawn Still on behalf of Ashwin. And the other thing, Ashwin was very truthful in terms of the negative campaigning regarding Shawn Still, and that was that Shawn Still was an indicted co-conspirator for Donald Trump in the 2020 election.
Yeah, and I think we should highlight Shawn Still wasn't just like a random bystander in that room either. He was the secretary of that group of fake electors who met to try to overturn Georgia's 2020 vote.
Yeah.
And he signed 16 pieces of paper, fraudulently saying that Trump won Georgia. So, he was not an innocent guy and all that, but he was since pardoned by Trump. Am I right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that was the 2024 race. And that, what we are left with from all of this is that Senate District 48 is seen in the state as the number one target for a Dems pickup due to growth and demographic change. So even with all of the gerrymandering, and, we're excited that Dem voters have a choice in this primary. Yeah. And we're excited to feature these two candidates for this Democratic nomination. So first we're going to go to you got to sit down with Nathan Holmbrook, right, Jess?
Yes. Yeah. I had a great conversation with him. Hi, Nathan. Thank you so much for joining us here at The Kicker. We're excited to talk to Nathan Hombrook, who is running for SD 48 State Senate. Nathan, can you tell us a little bit about why you're running?
Well, sure. First, thanks for welcoming me here on the pod and giving me an opportunity to talk to your audience. And let me introduce myself real quick to your listeners, and then I'll tell you why I decided to run. So as you said, my name is Nathan Hombrook, and I'm running for Georgia State Senate District 48, which includes Johns Creek, a little bit of Forsyth, and some of Gwinnett as well. So I lived in the metro Atlanta area my whole life. I grew up in Gwinnett County, and I've got a couple degrees from Georgia Tech. That's where I met my wife as well. And then we settled into Johns Creek with a house to raise our 3 kids. So professionally, I'm the head of innovation for a technology company. We build software and do consulting for other large businesses. So day to day, I build teams to help people untangle complex systems, solve difficult problems, bring different voices to the table, and move from conflict to solution to results. So I decided to run for office the day after Donald Trump was reelected back in 2024, back in November 2024. So like many of your listeners, I knew where we were headed, and I knew that I wanted to do something about it. Within our party, we've got a lot of talking heads and people who frankly speak like politicians. So we had a really difficult time connecting with voters and seeing eye to eye with how different folks, not just across this district and state, but across the country, are connecting with their communities, with the economy, and with our political system. And I've been wanting to see more Democrats step up to know how to both speak plainly about the challenges that we face, but also who know how to build consensus and achieve results. And rather than continue to wait for somebody else to step up, I decided to be the change that I wanted to see. So I had a conversation with my wife and I said, hey, I got a crazy idea. I'm going to run for this seat. And she was behind me 100% from day one.
Great. Can you tell us what you think are the biggest issues affecting the citizens of SD 48?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the buzzword of the cycle is definitely affordability. And I think this is both an appropriate, but also in some ways a poor word for the challenges that I see us facing. On one hand, I think it articulates the front-facing challenge that many of us are experiencing with gas prices and groceries and healthcare, home prices, et cetera. But for me, the word affordability also fails to paint the picture of some of the real challenge that we're all experiencing. And that challenge is that the people in the district and the state and across the country have come to experience that the system itself just isn't working. It's working against them in some cases. So yes, things are expensive here for many people. For example, where I live in Johns Creek, there is no shot that my kids would be able to live anywhere near me because home prices are just so expensive. My mortgage, I think, would probably be 3x what it is if I were to repurchase my home right now based on the home prices and the interest rates. But it's not just that things are really expensive. It's that the systems themselves are often broken. So one example is healthcare. It's not just expensive in Georgia, it's also broken. We've got one of the worst healthcare systems in the entire country in this state. Wages are stagnant, inequality is growing. We're seeing the rich get richer and the rest of us are treading water and trying to keep our heads from going under. So affordability is a term that encapsulates a lot of that, but for me, it fails to paint the broader picture of the real challenges that we're facing. It's not just that groceries are expensive, it's all the reasons that lead up to these things. So to address this, we need to address some of the ways that the systems work themselves. So we need to revisit the relationship between what it means to be a citizen and the government and how that interface works. We need robust services provided by the state that ensure that people aren't falling through the cracks. I think I saw a stat the other day that Jeff Bezos, in the 10 years since Trump entered public life, his net worth has 10x'd from 20-something billion to 200-something billion. But the rest of us are seeing wages stagnate and it become more difficult to afford everyday life. So to achieve the change that we need here as a community, we need leaders like me who have experience building consensus, creating innovative solutions, and then actually delivering the results. Because if we fail as a movement to deliver on our promises, we're going to keep sliding back and giving opportunities to the more extreme elements on the far right to come in and point the finger and say, look, they never deliver. You should never trust them. And that's where we have such a big problem in our party right now, is that people just don't trust us.
Finally, why do you think you're the strongest candidate to beat Shawn Still in the general election?
Yeah, great question. I believe that I counter Shawn Still in ways that no other candidate, either in this race or that he's run against in the past, can. So I'm a lifelong Georgian. I'm raising my family here in the heart of the district. I went to public schools. My kids go to public schools. My family attends church in the community. My profession lines up with what a large portion of the voter base here in this area does. So my lived experiences in many ways match or are parallel to the experiences of a lot of folks in the community. And this enables me to connect with people very easily. I know how to sit down and talk to folks like they're people and treat them with respect and speak with them in plain language and tell them what I mean and not speak in the political speak or the rhetoric. And I've got a lifetime of building common ground, both with swing voters and Republicans in the Atlanta suburbs. This is where I grew up. These are folks that I know. I've got a number of Republicans in my family that we regularly have these kind of charged conversations with, and the ability to get folks to sit down and find common ground is something that we've lost a lot in politics today. But we can't stop here. We've got to continue to build bridges. So right now, the moment calls for leaders who can build bridges and coalitions. So yes, we need to be fighters and stand up against those who are being bullied or having their rights taken away. But we can't allow the sense of righteousness that comes from that to prevent us from building a solid coalition to actually get things done. And that coalition can only be built by sharing a common vision with our neighbors, with folks in our community. A vision that shows that what we can achieve when we put aside the talking points and the rhetoric and focus on a common purpose that will make our community stronger. So it's about bringing people together. And I have the ability to do that in ways that other candidates don't. So I'm the best candidate to beat Shawn still because I provide the voters something to vote for and not just something to vote against in the Republican Party.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and we're excited to learn more about you. Thank you, Nathan.
Right. Thank you for the time.
Hi, Laura Murvartian. Welcome to The Kicker.
Hello, Becky. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad we could do this. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run.
Well, the first thing I want you to know is that I've done a lot. I've had an interesting career and I've done a lot in my personal life. So on the career side, I have a background. I received a public policy degree from the University of Michigan with a background in international economics. So my first job out of grad school was at the Federal Reserve Bank. I then moved into telecom, becoming an executive at Turner Broadcasting as the director of telecommunications. Moved on to work at my last corporate job was at Equifax as a senior director, negotiating data deals in US, Canada, and Mexico. So my corporate background has been, again, at the Federal Reserve Bank or negotiating deals for major corporations based in Atlanta in data and IT. And then personally, I've been involved in the community for decades. I have sat on boards. I've done a lot of community projects. I'm very proud of the fact that I was on the board of the Woodruff Art Center, on the board of Hands on Atlanta, and I have been involved in supporting candidates and being in the political environment for decades. I have done everything from doing fundraisers for candidates up and down the ballot, from John Ossoff, Stacey Abrams, being here in my home a number of times. Again, canvassing for folks, traveling to canvass for our candidates, marching, testifying, going to the Capitol. This is nothing new for me. I have been doing this for decades. I've been doing the work in my community and in the political space. And I started two nonprofits. One of the nonprofits I'm running today, but the other one that is still operating, it was a community library where we gave away over 60,000 books to children. And we did programming around literacy to help the parents learn how to read to their children. And I collaborated with many in the community to support that effort.
Fantastic. What do you see as the biggest issues facing the people in Senate District 48?
Oh, that is such a big question. We have so many issues. I would say, let's start at the core of what politics are for me, and that is protecting our democratic rights, right? We see where it's being chipped away here and there. We have to be very diligent and we have to step up and fight for our rights. And that includes having fair districts. When I ran in 2024 for House, when I was asked in a debate, if you had a magic bill, what would you choose? And I said fair districts, because with gerrymandering, we are diluting our vote. And that is the most valuable thing we have as a democratic state. We also have to protect access to the ballot. We see what's happening there. And so obviously protecting our democratic rights is key. Then moving on from that, it would be where we are most vulnerable. For example, healthcare, right? And even though many in our district, we're pretty well off district, but we are still vulnerable. If you lose your job, if you get a divorce, if your children, even if they go to a wonderful school and they're not able to get a full-time job when they turn 26, we are all vulnerable. And that is a very expensive risk that we are all taking. I don't want us to live in that fashion. I don't want to worry about my children. I don't want to worry about my husband or I losing our jobs and then having to figure out what we're going to do for healthcare. And I know that many individuals in our community are addressing, have those same concerns. The other thing in our community, in our district, is many of us have moved here because of the great school system. I want to make sure that we continue to maintain a great school system. Increasing teacher pay. I know they recently got a pay raise and the Republicans are very proud of that, but the fact is we are still under the average nationwide. We have a high turnover rate and we are still underfunding our schools because the average spend per student is still low. And I also want to make sure that we have safe schools by making sure that we have two main common sense gun laws, requiring that guns be locked so that children don't have access to them, and universal background checks. I want to make sure that we're not scared when we're sending our kids off to school. Those and also in our district, transportation. Most of us commute to where we're going to work, and we keep growing and we want to keep growing. We have a thriving business economy. I also want to make sure that our small businesses are thriving. I had a small business as well. I was a small business owner. I contributed more than $7 million to the Georgia economy. And I want to make sure that we are supporting our small businesses, which also means having access to the workforce for our businesses. So there's a lot in there that I think is important to our community, but you cover a lot when you're in the legislation. You can address many issues.
No doubt, no doubt. So why would you say you're the best candidate to face Shawn Still in the general election?
Oh, well, I've had a lot of experience in many different areas and I've had success in those areas. I can identify with a lot of what our community is going through. Again, I've had a small business where I've worried about inventory and paying my employees, right? Salaries. I've worked in corporate. I understand what that's like. I've had to worry about daycare. I've had I've been a chair of a nonprofit. I've sat on boards. I understand the needs of the community. I understand regulation. I was in the wine business for 8 years and all the regulations that you have to go through that and all the taxes that are involved. I have a lot of experience that I can bring to the table. Not only that, but I have the wherewithal to launch a strong campaign, the type of campaign we need to beat an incumbent Republican, which is why the leaders in the Senate caucus asked me to step in and run, because this is the most competitive seat in the Senate this year, and we have to leverage this opportunity and flip the seat. I can raise the money we need to beat a Republican. That's just a reality of running a race. You need to raise a lot of money. And I have the experience in that, the strong character to go to basically battle it out with Shawn, because it's going to get challenging. So I'm ready to step in and flip the seat.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us. And I'm really, really glad that we could do this.
Thank you for doing this as well.
Well, we've had a great session this time. This interview format is new for us. Thank you so much for joining. It was great to see you, Jessica.
Great to see you. Thanks for listening.